Hola! Here's an ad puzzle about La Familia. So first of all, here are some ways to remember some of this vocab with my famous family. My brother is Herman Munster, hermano. My twin's name is Gemma, gemela. My niece's name is Sabrina, and the word for niece is sobrina. My grandpa has awesome abs, abuelo. My great grandpa is a beekeeper, bisabuelo. My son is mi hijo, or they shorten it to mi hijo in the movie Coco. Do you remember hearing that? Mi hijo. So my son would be mi hijo. My grandson works at Nido Burrito, nieto. My stepdad is an astronaut, padrastro. So anything that you see astro or astrada at the end, they're your step family. My cousin works in the primary, prima. My aunt loves tea, tia. All right, so Mrs. McPartland.
So we're going to review some of the family members. El padre means the father. If you want to make a family member feminine, typically the el changes to la. In this case, el padre, the el goes to la, and you would change the first letter to M for madre. In most cases, el hermano, the brother. To make it feminine, el becomes la, and the O changes to an A. So la hermana, the sister. El abuelo would be the grandfather. And so the grandmother, el becomes la abuela, the grandmother. El tío is the uncle. So la tía would be the aunt. El primo, the male cousin. And la prima would be the female cousin. El sobrino, the nephew. To make it feminine, la sobrina is the niece. El padrastro, the stepfather. And la madrastra would be the stepmother. El hermanastro, the stepbrother. To make the stepsister, it's la hermanastra. El medio hermano is the half-brother. So the female equivalent would be la media hermana for the half-sister. El gemelo is the male twin. So la gemela would be the female twin. El bisabuelo, the great-grandfather. La bisabuela would then be the great-grandmother. El bis tío would be the great uncle. So la bis tía would be the great aunt. El hijo, the son. The feminine of that, la hija, the daughter. El hijastro, the stepson. La hijastra would be the stepdaughter. El hijo único is the only child that's male, so the only son. La hija única is the only child that's female, or the only daughter. El nieto, the grandson. La nieta then would be the granddaughter. El bisnieto, the great-grandson, becomes la bisnieta for the great-granddaughter. El esposo, the spouse or husband. And la esposa would be the female spouse or the wife. To make something plural, remember los parientes means the relatives, and it would be a mix of male and female relatives. If you see los padres, it could be the dads, but it could also be the mother and father, since one is masculine. Los abuelos could be the grandfathers or the grandparents, including the grandfather and grandmother. Los primos could mean the male cousins or a mix of male and female cousins, even if there's just one male cousin in the mix. Los hijos could be the sons. but it could be the children, males and females. And then los nietos is the grandsons, or it could mean the grandchildren.
Okay, so when we want to describe our family, on vocab 7, we learned a lot of adjectives, los adjetivos, and here's a few just to show you. And if you notice, some of them end in an E, which would be for both of them, like amable, right? That would be for a boy or a girl, interesante, fuerte. But some of them you see ended in O, which are typically masculine, and some ended in A, which are typically feminine. We know there's an exception to this rule, deportista, which is always for boys and girls. And you could describe their hair. So el pelo is hair. So describing someone with pelo castaño, that is brown hair. Now I know we've learned a couple words for brown, but this is typically the word they use for hair, kind of like we say brunette for hair, but we don't usually use brunette for eyes or table or anything like that. So pelo castaño is someone with brown hair. Pelo rubio is blonde hair. And don't be tricked by that one because it looks like ruby red. So pelo rubio is blonde hair. Pelo negro, black hair. Then on the bottom, we have the length of hair. Pelo corto and pelo largo. Also, you could use pelirrojo for someone with red hair, and someone with no hair would be calvo. So the examples at the bottom. Ella tiene pelo rojo, she has red hair, or ella es pelirroja, she's a redhead. Él tiene pelo corto, he has short hair, or él es calvo, okay? And one more thing we talk about is eyes, los ojos. So someone with brown eyes, you don't use castaño like with hair, you use marrón. So yo tengo ojos marrones is I have brown eyes. So ojos marrones, brown eyes. Ojos azules is blue eyes. Notice we're making the adjective plural because you have more than one eye, two eyes. Ojos verdes, green eyes. Ojos avellanos would be hazel eyes. Those look really cool. Ojos negros is black eyes. Not like you got a black eye from punching, but that your eyes are really dark. So él tiene ojos negros would mean he has brown or black eyes. Now we have someone that we're describing.
So follow along as I read this. Mi prima se llama Ana. Ella vive en Texas. Ella es estudiante. Ella tiene 15 años. Ella es pelirroja. Ella tiene ojos verdes. Ella es habladora, tonta y simpática.
So now you have a few questions about her. Mi bisabuelo se llama George or Jorge. Él vive en Florida. Él tiene 87 años. Él es calvo y tiene ojos marrones. Él es inteligente, interesante y generoso. A few questions about him.
And this one says, mis primos se llaman Paco y Lola. Ellos viven en Nevada. Ellos son jóvenes, divertidos y bajos. Lola tiene pelo castaño. Paco tiene pelo rubio. Ellos prefieren correr, leer y escuchar música. There are a few questions to answer about this reading.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to grammar 4, which is possessive adjectives. And we talked about these in class a little bit. So just notice on the left side, we have in English, my, your informal, his or her in your formal, our, and their. So in English, there's one word to say those. But in Spanish, if you notice, there's a masculine, and feminine singular, and then there's a plural way to say my. So me and mis. There's also tu, tus for your talking to a friend, su, sus for his or her or your formal, and then there's 4 ways to say our: nuestro, nuestra, nuestros, nuestras. Now remember, whatever comes after it is how you know which one to choose. So for example, if you were going to say our grandmother, because grandmother is abuela, feminine singular, you would use nuestra abuela. All right, if you're saying my grandparents, a mix of a male and a female, nuestros abuelos. Okay, and then the last row here is their or your plural, su and sus. There are a lot of meanings for su and sus. So su can mean his, her, your, or their, and same thing with sus, depending on which word is coming after. Okay, so now we have my grandma and you have blank abuela. So which one would you choose to say my in front of abuela? Would it be me or mis? And then you have mi abuela. So that one I did for you. The next 8 you need to figure out on your own.
My grandparents would be blank abuelos. Look at the chart to see which one you would choose to go in that blank.
His grandma. So use the chart.
Our grandma.
Their grandma.
Your grandma if you're talking to someone informally, a friend.
How about your grandma talking to an adult that you would use the formal form?
Their grandparents.
And this last one, our grandparents. Remember, there's 4 choices for this. All right, now we're going to talk about the most important box in the world, the verb box. And remember that we talked about in class, first person, second person, third person, and singular and plural. So here is the chart all filled in. All right, do you remember all these little words? There's a star over here for second person plural because they only use that one in Spain. So we have yo, tú, él, ella, usted, nosotros, nosotras, ellos, ellas, ustedes. Notice there is an accent on the two because it means you, and on that last chart there was no accent because it meant your. There is an accent on el because it means he. Without the accent, it means the. Okay, so here's an example. Mis abuelos son ricos. So we're describing mis abuelos. Which of those words would you use if you want to say they are not poor? So the answer would be ellos. Okay? All right, so the next one.
Mi abuela es baja. What subject pronoun would you use to replace mi abuela in that sentence?
Okay, this girl is talking. Yo soy pelirroja. So what word would go on the next blank? And notice it has soy again. No soy rubia.
Juan y yo somos hermanos. Fill in the blank to go in front of somos amigos también.
Luis es hijo único. Blank no tiene hermanos. So what would replace Luis as a subject pronoun?
This is the verb ser. Remember, ser means to be. We worked on this in Unit 2. The forms of ser, to be, yo soy for I am. Tú eres, you are, if you're talking to a friend. Él es would be he is. Ella es, she is. And usted es, you are, if you're talking to someone formal. Nosotros and nosotras somos for we are. Ellos or ellas son, they are. And ustedes son means you all are.
All right, so here's an example of one that you have to figure out which word would go on the blank. So the choices are soy, eres, es, somos, or son. So yo blank deportista, and there's the English, I am athletic. So which of those 5 would you choose? The answer is soy. Okay, the next ones you are going to fill in the blank.
Pancho blank alto. Pancho is tall. Which would you use to fill in the blank for Pancho? Soy, eres, es, somos, or son.
Okay, now we have ellas blank primas. They are cousins. Okay, so choose the best answer that goes in the blank.
Nosotros blank bajos, for we are short.
Blank ustedes gemelos? Are you twins? So which of those words would go in the blank in Spanish?
And here's the verb tener, to have. Tener is also an irregular verb in Spanish. And the forms of the verb tener, yo tengo means I have. Tú tienes means you have for a friend. Él tiene, he has. Ella tiene, she has. And usted tiene would be you have if you're talking to someone who you're formal with. Nosotros or nosotras tenemos means we have. Ellos and ellas tienen means they have. And ustedes tienen means you all have.
All right, so here's an example with this verb, tener. So the verb chart, the basis is the same, but the words inside it change. So ellos blank un perro. They have a dog. So would it be tengo, tienes, tiene, tenemos, or tienen? So using that chart, the blank would be tienen. Ellos tienen un perro. All right, the next few you do on your own.
Yo blank pelo castaño. I have brown hair.
Nosotros blank ojos verdes. We have green eyes.
Diego blank un padrastro. Diego has a stepdad.
In the last slide of the day, usted blank 14 gatos? You have 14 cats? Okay, good job on this ed puzzle. Adios.
Adios.
I can cut this off at the end. All right, let's see how long.